And now to this, an Idaho judge lifting a long-standing gag order today in the infamous Idaho murders case. This was a huge day. Bryan Kohberger pleaded guilty earlier this month to murdering 4 college students in 2022. Now, the deal granting him life in prison without the possibility of parole, taking the death penalty right off the table. Multiple news organizations asked the court to lift the gag order originally imposed by a local judge in Moscow, Idaho. Here with us now is NewsNation senior national correspondent Bryan Enton, who, of course, has covered every step in this case, and trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. So a perfect panel to talk this out. Misty, we'll start with you. What exactly would be released with all of this?
So as of now, the judge said he's lifting the gag order, and that means the parties can now talk. The prosecutors can talk, the defense can talk, people that were involved in the case are able to make public statements. He did say that he was going to review all of this information, all of these filings that are on the docket that are under seal. We have not seen this publicly. The families of the victims have not seen these documents. Lots of filings coming in right before the plea deal. He said he was going to wait to release those. He's going to review them, analyze what will become public. It's not likely to happen before it will not happen before the sentencing,
right,
but it may even take months to wait for Kohberger's time to file a notice of appeal to be over. Remember, he's waiving his right to appeal, but there's a Supreme Court case that says there may still be some avenues. So the judge seems like, in an abundance of caution, is avoiding any new issues that could be created by opening up everything else that's on the docket to the public.
Yeah, because it's a fairly unusual circumstance that we find ourselves in with this case. Bryan, I know that you've been obviously on the story since the beginning, and there's questions that you still have that you're hoping to get answered to. I know that you talked a little bit about that earlier, but what can you tell us? What are you hoping to learn?
Yeah, well, what Misty said, I think, is important. The families, even the families, have not gotten any information on the case that the public hasn't gotten because of the gag order. So for them, they can finally find out what happened to their loved ones. They can get the full story once these documents are finally released. There's so much that's been redacted that I want to know. We haven't seen any of the police interviews. We haven't seen any of the video interviews. We haven't seen any of the pictures from inside the house. All of that should become available eventually. But again, back to what Misty said, I think it's going to be months. The judge said he wants to go through the redactions himself. He said it's not going to be days or weeks. It's likely going to be months. And if he's saying that he wants to hold off until the appeal window closes out, I don't think this is happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, a big month ahead. We still have all of that coming up. And Misty, we also talked to Jennifer Coffendorfer on our show earlier today, and she was saying that lifting the gag order could actually give some prejudice for Kohberger's sentencing.
Yeah.
Actually, let's listen to what she said.
I don't think it's going to jeopardize anything, because I don't think it's going to be released in advance of that sentencing, at least not huge portions. I think clearly the defense is worried about the egregiousness and atrocity that this was, Laura. They don't want those details out, and they're just worried about that piece of it.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the plea deal has been entered, right? So he's already pled guilty. What's coming up now is the sentencing. And by the way, the defense did say they objected to the gag order being lifted in advance of his sentencing, saying there's already a lot of media that's interested in this case. It's just going to create more of a frenzy. The judge obviously said gag order, but then the documents will come later. Now, I think that there's still some avenues that, listen, from a defense perspective, there's ineffective assistance of counsel. There's that you didn't knowingly and voluntarily enter into an agreement. Those are issues that come up even with plea deals. I don't think you're going to see anything blow up the sentencing at this point.
Right.
And I think it's going to move forward, and we're going to see the sentence that both parties had spoken about. But what happens after the fact, you just really never know.
The sentencing is going to be huge. Bryan, what are you hearing? What do you anticipate to happen? Is that where we're going to hear victim impact statements? Tell us more.
Yeah, it's going to be on Wednesday. It's going to be a full day. It's going to be emotional. I know that 3 out of the 4 victims' families are going to be there. One family member I spoke to yesterday was telling me she's already writing her victim impact statement. She plans to address and direct it towards Bryan Kohberger. So emotions are going to be high. I've also confirmed that Bryan Kohberger's parents are also going to be there. We could possibly hear the surviving roommate speak because they, of course, are also victims. And it's going to be a full day. And like I said, I think it's going to be, for these victims, it's going to be a lot being in the same room with them for the whole day and finally getting to speak their mind. They've had to stay quiet for so long.
Yeah, Brian, it is an unloading and unleashing of emotion that is going to be absolutely wild. And I just keep thinking about being in the room when Scott Peterson was sentenced and Lacey Peterson's mother unloaded, and you could just hear like a primal cry from her as she was directly speaking to Scott Peterson. So that's the kind of thing that we're going to see, and we're going to see it 4 times and more times over in that courtroom. You've been talking to the family members. I assume that they're maybe comparing notes about how they're going to handle that.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, everyone will get a chance to speak. There's some statutory requirements, so I think it's like parents, siblings, grandparents, friends aren't getting the opportunity to speak, but I know the list is long. And again, there's one family member who I spoke to who said, you know, she was trying to come up with exactly what she wanted to say and whether she wanted to just sort of do a tribute to her loved one or how she wanted to go about it, and she ultimately decided that she is writing hers actually speaking to Bryan Kohberger and about what he did to her family.
Wow, it's so emotional. Misty, last word.
The victim impact statements are going to be so emotional, so heavy. It's their time to really unleash, as you said. But will we hear from Bryan Kohberger? As the defendant, he has the right to speak if he so chooses.
He has the right to speak. Brian, any intel? Is he expected to speak?
He could. Misty's right. He has the right to speak before the judge issues the sentence, which we know what it's going to be now: life, no possibility of parole. I don't think he's going to. That's just my sense. I don't know what Misty thinks. I mean, I've been to pretty much every court hearing. Even at the last one during the plea, he could have said more. He just kept it to one-word answers. I would be shocked if he speaks, although if some of these victims' family members are talking directly to him, and we've never seen that before. I mean, if they look him in the eye and address him throughout the entire day, perhaps that will, you know, sort of entice him to say something.
Maybe. And of course, you always hope that he will look back at them. That's always the part, and that's always so hard when they look away and they're not looking at the victims' families. I've seen that in court, and I know you have too, Brian. We want them to make eye contact, you know, so that they have that opportunity, the families have that opportunity to look at him directly in the eye. Misty Marris, last word, anything that we could expect?
It's going to be a really heavy day in court.
All right, we've got that next week. We got to leave it there. Brian Ensign, Misty Marris, thank you so much for that reporting and insight.